Well, I guess I'm gonna be the one defending this movie.
Welcome, foolish mortals, to Awesome Anthony Productions. I'm your host, your ghost host, Anthony.
And today I'm going to give you my review of the latest Disney movie based on one of their iconic attractions, Haunted Mansion. But before we get started, you know exactly what to do. Please leave a like, it really helps me with the algorithm so I can reach a bigger audience. Subscribe and ring the bell so that you never miss a new review. Now let's get into it. Now I just want to address this first. I may be pretty biased towards this movie.
Oh, brother.
Haunted Mansion is my favorite ride ever. So as long as this movie was better and more faithful to the ride than the Eddie Murphy movie,
Dark spirits. Hey, no dark spirits. Don't you make no dark spirits come out.
I was going to be happy. And I'm happy. Haunted Mansion stars an ensemble cast led by Lakeith Stanfield as a grief-stricken widow with a past involving the invention of a special type of camera that can see ghosts. He's hired by Rosario Dawson, who just moved into the titular Haunted Mansion with her son, played by Chase Dillon, to work with a crew to help rid the house of ghosts. That crew includes a priest, played by Owen Wilson, a medium, played by Tiffany Haddish, and a historian, played by Danny DeVito. And while they're doing that, they will be haunted and threatened by the villainous Hatbox Ghost, voiced by Jared Leto, and receive some help along the way from the crystal ball-bound Madame Leota, played by Jamie Lee Curtis. Since I like this movie a lot more than most critics and different reviews that I've seen, I guess I'll just start with what I didn't like about the movie and get that out of the way first. My biggest complaint is that things could have been tightened up a lot in the third act, because it feels like just as things were really getting going and we're racing towards an action-packed, spooky climax, we have to come to a complete stop for a quick fetch quest outside of the mansion.
Why are we doing this?
That whole part could have just been cut or taken place inside of the mansion. We really didn't need to take that 10-minute break that just kills the pacing. There's also more jokes than I would have preferred that fell flat for me, specifically relating to weird product placement or Owen Wilson's character, who essentially just ends up spending half the movie doing his usual thing, staring down some ghosts and talking like, whoa, hey now, there's no need to be so scary, like wow.
God, give us a break. There's so many bad people in the world. Haunt them.
Sorry for how horrible that impression was. There was also a few jokes with Tiffany Haddish that went on a little too long that kind of made me roll my eyes. I also thought that there was one rather large emotional plot point that's treated like the end of an arc for a character, but it literally just comes out of nowhere in the last act and left me kind of confused, and it was explained away just as quickly as it was introduced. But those are my few complaints, so let's get into what I enjoyed about this film.
Finally!
Lakeith Stanfield is one of my favorite actors of all time. He has incredible range, and he's been one of my favorites since I first saw him as the lovable, quirky stoner Darius in Donald Glover's Atlanta.
Cookie?
Flavor is a flaming hot Cheeto. Hot.
Can I measure your tree?
No, not right now.
That basically means no, man.
And I've enjoyed his performance in every movie he's been in. From his dramatic debut in Short Term 12 to the insane Sorry to Bother You, his dry-witted sidekick detective in Knives Out, the fact that he carried that terrible Death Note adaptation on Netflix. He's a really great actor. And anytime that I see he's going to be in something, it immediately piques my interest.
Shut up and take my money.
Here was no different, and he did a great job. He brings the humor and the fear and the dry wit that this movie was going for, but he also brings a lot of heart and emotion and carries it through the entire film. This is because the film wisely makes him our main character, and even as the cast grows throughout the first half and becomes our team that we spend the rest of the movie with, it always wisely comes back to him and his emotional journey. He has one monologue late in the second act that is so emotional and raw it had me choking back tears. It's pretty much impossible not to feel for that character at some point in the movie. I also just think that Stanfield is a great leading man. Here he's aloof and cool in his own kind of shady way in the beginning, but as he opens up and journeys deeper into the mystery of the mansion, he effortlessly plays up the adventurous agility and heroism that the character grows into while never straying too far from that heartfelt core that always keeps this movie grounded in emotion. The rest of the characters in the group don't get nearly as much development, unfortunately, but they do make up for it with the charismatic performances and how well they play off of each other. All of the cast has great chemistry here.
Not on our watch.
Well, what are you gonna do? Seriously?
They're already dead.
You're gonna be deader.
Lakeith Stanfield and Rosario Dawson are absolutely electric together, and she has enough of a role as the voice of reason and the concerned mother in the group to where she's definitely a needed presence in the film, even if the movie doesn't exactly know what to do with that character a lot of the time. Dawson also plays off the character of her son very well, which is definitely complemented by the fact that child actor Chase Dillon holds his own throughout the entire film, even if they don't really do too much to develop him beyond just scared, bullied kid.
You're a wimp!
Tiffany Haddish is fine here as well. She's still sassy as ever, but they wisely toned down her amount of yelling and anger here, instead giving her a pivotal role as a medium that, though she does have some jokes that can be rather hit or miss, works more than she doesn't and has a pretty crucial scene that ties into the movie's heart and emotion that made me like that character a lot more.
Amen.
I mentioned Owen Wilson already, and unfortunately I think he has the weakest performance here, but that's not really his fault. It's more the script not knowing what to do with him. He's mostly just relegated to the usual fast-talking, mumbling, wise guy that doesn't really have much to do aside from quipping in every life-threatening situation, and I don't really think he was needed here. It kind of felt the same way with Danny DeVito's character, but I always love seeing him on screen, and he brought a frantic, chaotic energy to this movie that I really think benefited the humor that it was going for.
I'm sorry, Rumham!
Jamie Lee Curtis was also fine as Madame Leota, but the character doesn't really have that much presence in the script, and is mostly just there for exposition and for helping out the crew every now and then. So the emotional core is definitely there and supported by the strong ensemble cast, even if the script doesn't always have the best material for them, and a couple of characters don't feel all too necessary.
I don't want you here, and I don't want you here. I'm stuck with you.
Speaking of the script, though the humor was a little bit hit or miss and could have been punched up, I thought the story was actually pretty solid. It gives us a strong emotional arc for our main character while weaving in themes of grief and accepting a new family all throughout the film, along with a fun and clever mystery that adapts the story of the Haunted Mansion into a serviceable script with plenty of glimpses of creepiness or straight up horror that I appreciated because it definitely made this a little bit more than the typical Disney PG-13 family film. Oh, and I also really appreciated the ton of Easter eggs and references to the ride throughout the movie, like moving chairs being shaped like doom buggies, or a room that suddenly loses its windows and doors and starts stretching, or busts with eyes that follow you as you walk down the hall. You can tell that regardless of how corporate mandated this movie might have been, the filmmakers, writers, production designers, they all had a love and reverence for the ride to where if you're a huge fan of the Haunted Mansion like I am, it'll be difficult to not have a smile on your face through a lot of it.
But this does put a smile on my face.
That also extends to Chris Bowers' score, that plays around with and incorporates different musical cues and themes from the Haunted Mansion music, or Grim Grinning Ghosts, along with plenty of times where it plays up the emotion or bombastically blasts into a scene to ramp up the action or tension.
This is intense!
And the last thing I want to talk about here is the villain, the Hatbox Ghost. As much as I was looking forward to seeing the bride, Constance Hatchaway, on the big screen and having her be the villain, I'm glad that they gave that role to the Hatbox Ghost because he definitely brought the creep factor. The film wisely has his presence littered throughout the first half and builds up to his reveal while gradually unveiling the mystery behind him, and this, combined with the fact that all of the ghosts in the house are scared of him, really goes a long way in making him an effectively creepy villain.
I'm scared, Daddy. Too scared to even wet my pants.
Though I would have liked to see a little bit more from him, especially in the climax. I also have no idea why they casted Jared Leto.
It's Morbin time.
You don't actually see him in human form, his voice is so distorted you can't tell it's him, and when you actually see the ghost himself, it's so CGI heavy it could have been anybody. Oh, and speaking of the CGI, most of it's pretty strong and none of it really stuck out to me, so that's definitely a positive. So as a diehard fan of the Haunted Mansion ride since I first rode it when I was a kid that really doesn't like the 2003 movie all that much, I have to say that I really enjoyed this movie. It's definitely flawed thanks to a needlessly extended third act, too much product placement, a couple of rather pointless characters, and humor that leans towards hit or miss. But it makes up for these flaws with a substantial amount of heart, an extremely well written and acted lead in Lakeith Stanfield, a strong ensemble cast that plays off of each other very well, a surprising amount of tension and scares for a Disney family film, and a dedication and reverence to the lore and imagery of the Haunted Mansion that made it a must-see for me. And that's my review of Haunted Mansion. If you like this video, you know exactly what to do. Please leave a like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss any of my new reviews. While you're at it, you can also find the links to my socials in the description below. Leave a comment with your thoughts, let me know if you saw the movie, and finally you can click or tap on these cards here. They'll take you to my review of Talk to Me, or just over to my channel where you can check out my reviews, my shorts, and my old shit. Thanks for watching everybody, and I will see you next week for my review of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem.